No one expected a human to walk alone into the Imperial Hall of Zartia Yuan. The hall was massive. Black stone pillars rose high into the air, carved with ancient alien symbols. Hundreds of alien nobles sat in silence, their glowing eyes fixed on the small human standing at the center. Compared to them, he looked weak, short, fragile. His name was Ethan Hawley. He wore no armor, no weapon, only a simple dark uniform, marked with the symbol of Earth. At the far end of the hall sat Princess Zira, heir to the Zarthan throne. Her skin shimmered like silver under the lights. Her eyes were sharp, cold, and powerful. It was said she had never lost a battle and never shown mercy. This meeting was supposed to be simple. Earth wanted peace. Zar to HUN wanted submission. Between them stood one human. A deep alien voice echoed through the hall. The human has arrived. Let the negotiation begin. Ethan raised his head. His hands trembled slightly, but his voice did not. Earth comes in peace, he said. We do not seek war. A low rumble of laughter spread through the chamber. Princess Zira leaned forward, resting her chin on her clawed hand. Peace? She said calmly. Your fleets are weak. Your weapons are slow. Why should my empire listen to a species that cannot defend itself? Ethan swallowed. He had prepared for insults, for threats, for mockery. Still, hearing them stung. Because war will cost lives, he replied. On both sides. Zira's eyes narrowed. Lives are the price of power. The nobles nodded in agreement. The air grew heavy. Then an elder alien stepped forward. His voice was old and sharp like breaking stone. There is another path. All eyes turned to him. Our ancient law, the elder continued, allows peace if the royal bloodline is joined with that of the enemy. Ethan frowned. Joined how? The elder looked directly at him. Marriage. The hall erupted in noise. Ethan's heart stopped. Princess Zira straightened instantly. What? She snapped. The elder bowed his head slightly. If the princess takes a mate from Earth, the war ends. The treaty becomes unbreakable. Zira stood up slowly. Her power filled the room like a storm. I will not be traded like cargo, she said coldly. And certainly not to a... She stopped mid-sentence. Because Ethan had stepped forward, I will do it. Silence fell so suddenly. It felt unreal. Zira stared at him. The nobles froze. Even the guards tightened their grips on their weapons. You will what? Zira asked. Ethan's heart pounded so loud he thought everyone could hear it. Fear screamed at him to stop. To take it back. To run. But he didn't. I accept the marriage, he said clearly. If it ends the war. The elders' eyes widened. Zira's shock turned into anger. You think this is a game? She demanded. You stand before monsters, human. You would bind yourself to an enemy who could crush you with one hand? Yes, Ethan said. Why? She hissed. He looked up at her, not with desire, not with pride, but with calm honesty. Because billions of lives are worth more than my fear. The hall went quiet again. But this time it was different. Uncomfortable, uncertain. Zira walked down from her throne, each step slow and deliberate. She stopped inches from Ethan, towering over him. She studied his face. No arrogance, no trick, only resolve. You are weak, she said softly. I know, Ethan replied. You would not survive our trials. Maybe not. You would lose everything. I already chose, he said. Her eyes flickered. No one had ever chosen her. Not without force. Not without fear. She searched his face one last time, expecting hesitation. She found none. Then she laughed a sharp, disbelieving sound. You're taking me as your wife? She said. Her voice rose, echoing through the hall. Really? Ethan met her gaze. Yes, he answered. If you'll have me. The elder raised his staff. Then by ancient law, the bond is proposed, he declared. The trial shall begin at dawn. Zira turned away, her expression unreadable. As guards escorted Ethan from the hall, whispers exploded around him. A human had just changed the fate of two worlds, and he had no idea if he would survive the choice he made. Ethan did not sleep that night, the room given to him inside. The Zarthan palace was larger than any building he had lived in on Earth. The walls were smooth black stone, warm to the touch, glowing faintly with alien light. Outside the tall window, strange stars burned in colors he had never seen before, yet none of it felt beautiful. He sat on the edge of the bed, hands clenched, replaying the moment again and again. I accept the marriage. The word still felt unreal. At sunrise, the palace woke with a deep, low hum. Heavy doors opened. Alien guards appeared without warning. Human, one said. You will follow. Ethan stood and nodded. He did not ask where they were taking him. He already knew. The walk through the palace halls felt like walking through a nest of predators. Warriors lined the corridors, tall, armored, sharp-eyed. Some stared at him with open hatred, others with curiosity, a few with hunger. Is this the male? One whispered. He will not last a cycle, another replied. Ethan kept walking. They led him into a wide training chamber. The floor was scarred, with deep marks as if claws and weapons had torn it apart over centuries. Princess Zyra stood waiting. She wore no crown now, no royal robes, only battle armor that hugged her powerful frame. Up close, her presence was overwhelming. Strength rolled off her like heat, so she said, arms crossed, "The human still breathes." Ethan stopped a few steps away and bowed his head slightly, not too low. "I do." She noticed. Most beings knelt fully before her. He did not. Her eyes narrowed. "You were given luxury," she said. "Food, shelter, protection, yet you show no gratitude." "I am grateful," Ethan replied, "but I won't kneel." A murmur ran through the watching warriors. Zira stepped closer. "Do you understand where you stand, human?" "Yes." "Then why?" Ethan met her gaze. His voice stayed calm, though his heart raced. "Because I didn't come as a prisoner. I came as a choice." Silence spread across the chamber. Zira studied him longer than before. Not as an enemy, not as prey. As something unfamiliar. "Choice," she repeated softly. "That word follows you." She turned away. "Very well. You will observe our customs. You will eat our food. You will face our people." She looked back at him sharply. "And you will break." The first test was simple, or so they thought. Ethan was brought to the communal hall. Long stone tables were filled with alien nobles and warriors. He was placed at the center alone. Servants brought him a plate. The smell hit him immediately. Strong, bitter, almost burning. "This food strengthens us," a noble said mockingly. "Let us see how the human stomach survives." Ethan stared at the meal. His instincts screamed no, but he picked up the utensil and took a bite. Pain exploded in his mouth. His throat tightened. His eyes watered. Laughter erupted. He swallowed. Anyway. Then another bite. Then another. His hands shook. His face went pale. But he did not stop. Across the hall, Princess Zira watched in silence. When Ethan finally set the plate down, his breathing was rough, but the plate was empty. The laughter faded. Later came the courtyard. A massive alien beast was chained at the center. Its roar shook the ground. "Touch it," a guard ordered. Ethan stepped forward slowly. "You hesitate now?" Someone sneered. "No," Ethan said. "I'm being careful." He reached out, steadying his breath, and placed his hand gently on the creature's rough skin. The beast froze. It did not attack. It lowered its head slightly. The courtyard went quiet. Zyra's eyes widened just a little. That night Ethan collapsed into bed, exhausted and bruised. His body screamed in protest. His mind begged him to give up, but he thought of Earth. Of cities that would burn. Of children who would never know why. The door slid open. Zira stepped inside. The guards remained outside. "You endure pain," she said. "You refuse submission. You face death calmly." She moved closer. "What do you truly want, human?" Ethan looked up at her. "I want tomorrow," he said. "For both our worlds." Zira said nothing. For the first time in her life, doubt crept into her certainty. This human was not strong, but he was unbreakable, and that frightened her more than any enemy. Dawn came with a warning horn that shook the palace walls. Ethan stood in the center of the trial circle, the ground beneath. His feet was not stone. It was metal, old, scarred, and cracked. Around him rose tiered platforms filled with alien warriors, nobles, and elders. Their faces showed no kindness, only expectation. Expectation of failure. Princess Zira sat high above them all. Her armor gleamed in the rising light. Her face was calm, unreadable. "The third trial begins," announced the elder, striking his staff against the floor. "This trial has ended the lives of many." Ethan's mouth went dry. The elder continued, "Strength is not required. Speed is not required. Intelligence alone will not save you." He pointed at Ethan. "This is the trial of endurance." The floor beneath Ethan split open. Chains rose from below, wrapping around his arms, legs, and chest before he could react. They pulled tight, lifting him slightly off the ground. A low hum filled the arena. "What is this?" Ethan asked, struggling. Princess Zira answered him instead of the elder. "This device feeds on fear," she said. "It reads the mind. It shows you what will break you." The hum grew louder. Ethan's vision blurred. Suddenly, he was no longer in the arena. He stood on Earth. But it was not the Earth he remembered. The sky was red. Cities burned in the distance. Sirens screamed. He ran through rubble, searching, calling names, but no one answered. A voice whispered in his mind, "You failed." He fell to his knees. The chains tightened. In the real arena, Ethan screamed. Some aliens laughed. "Already?" One mocked. "Princess." Zira did not laugh. She leaned forward. Inside the illusion, Ethan saw children hiding in the ruins. He reached for them, but they faded like smoke. "You chose wrong." His heart felt like it would tear apart. He wanted it to stop. He wanted to give up. The device pushed deeper. Now he stood alone in darkness. No sound. No future. Only silence. The chains tightened again. Blood ran from his wrists. In the arena, warriors watched closely. "He will beg soon," one said. Minutes passed. Then more. Ethan did not beg. Inside the darkness, he closed his eyes. "If this is the end," he whispered, "then I accept it." The device reacted. The illusion changed. Now he stood back in the Imperial Hall, alone. Princess Zira sat on the throne, but her eyes were empty. "I never chose you," she said coldly. "You were nothing." Ethan's chest hurt, but he shook his head. "That's not true," he said softly. "Even if you never choose me, I still choose peace." The device began to shake. Warning lights flashed around the arena. The elder stepped back in surprise. "That is impossible," he muttered. No one resists the final vision. The chains trembled. Ethan screamed, not in fear, but in effort. "I won't let fear decide." He shouted, "I already made my choice." The chains snapped, metal shattered against the floor. Ethan collapsed, gasping for breath. Silence consumed the arena. No cheers. No laughter. Only shock. Princess Zira stood slowly. She descended the steps of her platform and walked toward Ethan. Each step echoed. He tried to stand. His legs failed. She stopped in front of him. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she spoke quietly, so only he could hear. "That trial breaks warriors twice your size," she said. Why didn't it break you? Ethan wiped blood from his wrist. Because it showed me what I already accepted, he replied. Fear doesn't own me. She studied him closely, not as a ruler, not as a weapon, but as a being. The elder raised his staff again, his voice uncertain. Human has survived the trial of endurance. A ripple moved through the crowd. Survived. Not passed. Survived. Princess Zera turned to the watching nobles. He lives, she said firmly. And that means something. She looked back at Ethan. This changes nothing, she added. But her voice lacked strength. As guards helped Ethan away, whispers followed him, different from before. Not mocking. Questioning. That night, alone. In his chamber, Ethan stared at his shaking hands. He had faced his worst fear and lived. Elsewhere in the palace, Princess Zera stood at her window, staring at the stars. For the first time, she wondered something dangerous. What if this human was not weak at all? The palace felt different after the trial. Whispers followed Ethan wherever he went, but they were no longer full of laughter. They were low, careful, curious. Warriors who once ignored him now watched him closely, as if trying to understand something that did not fit their world. Ethan himself felt empty. The trial of endurance had taken something from him. He could still feel the chains on his skin, the darkness, the voices telling him he would fail. He sat alone in a quiet chamber, staring at his hands. A soft sound broke the silence. The door opened. Princess Zera stepped inside. She was not wearing armor. She was not wearing royal robes either. Only simple dark clothing. Like a warrior at rest. Ethan stood slowly, pain still sharp in his body. You don't need to stand, Zera said. He paused, then sat back down. For a long moment, neither spoke. You should be dead, Zera said finally. No one survives that trial without breaking. I didn't survive, Ethan replied quietly. I just didn't stop. Zera turned to face him. That is not the same thing. She moved closer, stopping a few steps away. When the device entered your mind, she asked, what did you see? Ethan hesitated. Then he answered honestly. I saw everything I was afraid of losing. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You did not see power or victory. No, he said. I saw people. That answer unsettled her. Zera walked past him, looking out the tall window at the alien city below. Towers of metal and light stretched endlessly, strong and cold. All my life, she said, I was taught that fear is weakness. She clenched her hands slowly. My tutors burned it out of me. My generals punished it. My people worship strength. She turned back toward him. But your trial fed on fear, she continued. And it failed. Ethan looked up at her. Because I didn't fight it, he said. I accepted it. She frowned. That makes no sense. We just decide what matters more. Zera studied him again. You accepted marriage to an enemy empire. She said, you accepted death, pain, humiliation. Yes. Why? Ethan took a slow breath. Because peace needed someone to pay the cost, he said. And no one else was willing. Her chest tightened. She had been chosen. Before. Chosen as a symbol. Chosen as a weapon. Chosen as a prize. But never this way. You think this makes you noble? She asked sharply. No, Ethan said. It makes me tired. That answer caught her off guard. She laughed once, short and quiet. You are a strange creature, she said. They stood in silence again. Then Zera asked something she had never asked anyone. Did you ever feel you had no choice? Ethan thought for a moment. Every day, he said. But choosing anyway, that's what makes us human. Zera turned away for the first time. She felt something she could not name. Not anger. Not pride. Uncertainty. The door suddenly slid open. An alien guard entered. Tense. Princess, he said urgently. The council requests your presence. Zera's expression hardened instantly. She nodded. Leave us. The guard hesitated. The human. He stays. Zira said firmly. The guard bowed and left. Zira looked back at Ethan. The next trials will not test endurance. She warned. They will test loyalty. Ethan met her eyes. I know. She paused, then spoke more softly. You should have escaped after the trial. Many would have helped you. I thought about it, Ethan admitted. And I decided not to. Why? He smiled faintly, because leaving would mean the fear won. Zira felt something shift inside her. Something dangerous, something warm. She straightened. Rest, she ordered. You will need your strength. As she walked toward the door, Ethan spoke again. Princess? She stopped. I didn't choose you because of law, he said. Or duty. She did not turn around. I chose you because someone had to choose first. The door closed behind her. Zira stood alone in the corridor, her heart racing. For the first time in her life, she did not know what the future held. And for the first time, she did not fear that uncertainty. The palace did not sleep. Long after the lights dimmed and the corridors fell quiet, shadows still moved behind the walls. Secrets whispered through hidden chambers. Old power did not like change, and a human standing beside the throne was change. Ethan felt it before he heard it. He was walking back to his chamber when the air shifted. The corridor ahead was empty, yet something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. He slowed his steps. 2 alien nobles stood in a side passage, their voices low. They did not see him at first. The princess hesitates, one said. She is corrupted, the other replied. By a weak creature. Ethan pressed himself against the wall, heart pounding. Our plan must move sooner, the first continued. At the Ascension gathering, the human dies. The princess follows. Ethan's blood went cold. The council will blame the human. The second said calmly, and we reclaim control. Footsteps echoed. Ethan slipped away silently, his mind racing. They're going to kill her. He had a choice. He could run. Escape ships were ready. Several warriors had already hinted they would help him leave. Earth would welcome him as a hero who tried, or he could stay. Ethan reached Princess Zyra's chamber and stopped. 2 elite guards stood outside. I need to see her, he said. The guards hesitated. She is not receiving anyone. This is important, Ethan insisted. People will die. The guards exchanged looks. After a long moment, the doors opened. Zira stood inside, reviewing holographic reports. She looked up sharply when she saw Ethan's face. What happened? She asked. They're planning a coup, Ethan said immediately. At the Ascension gathering, they'll kill me and you. The room went still. Zyra's eyes hardened. Who? Hi. Nobles, Ethan replied. The ones who never wanted peace. Zira turned away, jaw tight. I suspected, she said quietly. But suspicion is not proof. They spoke openly, Ethan said. They think I'm already dead. She turned back toward him slowly. You could have left, she said. Why didn't you? Ethan met her gaze. Because I chose this path, he said. And I don't abandon my choices. Something flickered in her eyes, anger mixed with something deeper. You are not bound to us yet, she said. You owe this empire nothing. Zira was silent for a long time. Then she nodded once. Then you will stand with me, she said. The Ascension gathering filled the grand arena the next cycle. Thousands of aliens gathered, their voices rising like thunder. Banners of the Empire waved in the air. Power was on display. Ethan stood beside Zira on the platform. Unarmed. UNARMORED. Every instinct screamed at him. Across the arena, he spotted the nobles he had overheard. Their eyes locked onto him. Smiles curled on their faces. The elder raised his staff. Let the binding ceremony. The ground shook. Explosions tore through the lower tiers. Screams erupted. Armed rebels surged forward. It begins. Zira growled. Guards rushed to surround her. A plasma bolt cut through the air straight toward Zyra. Ethan moved without thinking. He stepped in front of her. The bolt struck him in the side. Pain exploded. Through his body, he fell to one knee. Gasping, Zira screamed his name. The arena froze. A human shielding the princess. Ethan forced himself upright, blood soaking his uniform. "I'm not done," he said weakly. The rebels hesitated. No one had expected this. Zira's power finally unleashed. Energy roared from her like a storm. The rebels were thrown back, weapons ripped from their hands. Guards surged forward, overwhelming them. Silence fell. Zyra knelt beside Ethan, her hands shaking as she pressed against his wound. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" Ethan looked up at her, smiling faintly despite the pain. "Because," he said, "someone had to stand in front." Medical teams rushed in. As Ethan was carried away, the arena watched in stunned silence. A human had taken a strike meant for their princess. That day, the Empire learned something terrifying. Humans were not fearless. They were willing, and that made them dangerous. The palace medical wing had never been this quiet. Machines hummed softly. Blue alien light filled the chamber. Ethan lay unconscious on the healing platform, his chest wrapped in glowing bands that slowly sealed torn flesh. Doctors worked in silence. Princess Zira stood at the edge of the room. She had not moved since. "They brought him in. He should be dead," one medic whispered to another. "That weapon shatters bone." "But he lives," the other replied. Zira heard everything. She stared at Ethan's still form. The human who should have run. The human who should have begged. The human who stepped in front of a blast meant for her. A weak species, they said. She clenched her fists. Hours passed. Then Ethan's fingers switched. Zira stepped forward instantly. His eyes opened slowly, unfocused. "Did it work?" he whispered. Zira's breath caught. "The rebellion is crushed," she said. "You stopped it." He tried to sit up. Pain shot through him, and he fell back with a groan. "Don't move," she ordered sharply. Then softer. "Please." Ethan looked at her, surprised. "You're still here," he said. "I did not leave," Zira replied. "I stayed because I chose to." The words felt strange on her tongue. Ethan smiled faintly. "That's good." Outside the medical wing, the Empire shook. News spread faster than any signal. A human protected the princess. Warriors argued. Nobles whispered. Soldiers questioned old beliefs. Fear turned inward. The council demanded Ethan be moved to secure custody. Zira refused. "They call him a threat," a general warned. "They fear what he represents." "They should," Zira answered coldly, "because the galaxy is watching." That night, Zira sat beside Ethan as he slept. She remembered her childhood lessons. Never show weakness. Never stand behind another. Never allow emotion to rule you. Yet here she was, guarding a human, when Ethan woke again. Zira was still there. "I dreamed," he said quietly, "that I failed." Zira shook her head. "You did not." She hesitated, then continued. "You stood before death without armor, without power, without command." She met his eyes. "Why?" Ethan swallowed. "Because promises matter," he said. "And I promised peace." She had heard many vows in her life, oaths of conquest, of loyalty, of obedience. None sounded like this. "Do humans always protect others this way?" she asked. Ethan thought for a moment. "No," he said honestly. "We argue. We fear. We fail." He looked at his hands. "But when we decide something is worth it, we don't step aside." Zira stood slowly. The decision formed inside her, not as command, but as choice. The next cycle, she addressed the Empire. Ethan, still weak, stood beside her. No chains, no guards between them. My people, Zyra declared, her voice echoing across the grand hall. You saw a human bleed for our throne. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. He was not bound by law. He was not commanded. She turned toward Ethan. He stood because he chose to. She faced the nobles. Any who challenged the bond between us challenge me. Silence followed. Then. Something new. Kneeling. One by one, warriors lowered themselves, not to Ethan, but to the truth he represented. Zyra felt the shift. The war was already over. Later, alone again, Zyra stood with Ethan at the balcony. Stars burned quietly above them. You changed my empire, she said. Ethan shook his head. I just kept my promise. She studied him carefully. Then hear mine, she said. She placed her hand over his. I will not let your sacrifice be forgotten. Ethan smiled, tired but peaceful. That's all I wanted. In the distance, fleets powered down. Weapons went. Silent. A human's promise had done what? Armies could not. It had stopped a war. The galaxy did not forget what happened in the Zarthan. Empire. News spread across star systems like fire through dry grass. A human had stood unarmed before death. A princess had allowed him to stand. An empire built on strength had paused, then changed. Ethan stood once more in the Imperial Hall. But this time, he was not alone. Princess Zyra stood beside him, not above him. She wore ceremonial armor, bright and powerful, yet her posture was different now, less rigid. More real. The elder stepped forward. By ancient law, he announced, the bond may now be sealed. The words echoed through the hall. Ethan felt. Every eye on him. Fear returned, not sharp like before, but quiet. He turned slightly toward Zyra. This is still your choice, he said softly. If you wish to end this, I will understand. Zyra looked at him. At the human who bled for peace, who never demanded, who never claimed. All my life, she said, her voice steady. Others decided my fate. She turned to face the nobles. I was given as symbol, as weapon, as future. Then she looked back at Ethan. But you, she said, never tried to own me. The hall held its breath. You asked nothing, she continued. You offered everything. She stepped forward. I do not accept this bond because of law, Zyra said clearly. I accept it because I choose it. A shockwave of silence followed. Then knees hit the floor. Not forced, not ordered, chosen. The elder lowered his staff. So be it, he said. The bond is sealed. A soft light surrounded them. Not chains, not marks of control, but warmth. Later, away from the ceremony, Ethan stood alone on the palace balcony. Stars stretched endlessly before him. He felt small. Zyra joined him quietly. The galaxy will never see humans the same way again, she said. Ethan shook his head. They shouldn't fear us, he replied. That's not what we wanted. Zyra looked at him carefully. That is what frightens them, she said. You are not driven by dominance, she paused. You are driven by choice. Ethan smiled faintly. That's all we ever had. Silence fell between them, not uncomfortable, but calm. You know, Ethan said, on Earth, marriage is not about duty. Zyra tilted her head. Explain. It's about walking beside someone, he said. Even when the path is hard. She considered this. Then walk beside me, she said simply. Ethan looked at her, truly looked. Not as a princess, not as an alien, but as someone who had learned how to choose. I will, he said. Below them, the empire changed. Weapons were lowered. Borders opened. Trade replaced threat. Other species watched in disbelief. The strongest empire in the sector had not been conquered. It had been convinced. And at the center of it all stood a human unremarkable in body, unstoppable in will. The final broadcast echoed across the stars. Let it be known, Princess Zyra declared, that humans are not weak. They are dangerous, she continued, Because they care. Ethan listened quietly. HFY was never about strength, that it was about standing when others stepped back, choosing when others demanded, and loving when the universe expected fear. As the stars burned on, a new chapter began, not written in blood, but in choice.